Welcome back to Runnerverse. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Marvel Champions. This is the fourth out of, I presume, 5 scenarios in the Marvel Champions Solo League number 13 unofficial player run thing. And this is my first season I'm participating. You can see my previous 3 scenario playthroughs on the channel. I'm only participating insofar as I'm recording videos. I'm not doing the full-on participation. There's like teams and you record 3 times and record your scores and whatnot. But I'm just going to be playing one game here. Got Miles Morales Spider-Man against Sandman. I have played Sandman before on the channel about 8 months ago when I did the Sinister Motives campaign playthrough. What I haven't done is play Miles Morales Spider-Man ever. What I also haven't done is played Sandman Expert Mode. So I very rarely play Expert Mode Marvel Champions at all. I think I've played it maybe once with some friends, never on the channel. Not really my jam, but I'm following along with the Solo League. That's what they said to do. So here we are. I've got set up on Stage 2 Sandman. I got to beat Stage 2 Sandman and then also Stage 3 Sandman to win. On Stage 2 here that we're starting with, he's got 18 hit points. Spider-Man has 9. And in his alter ego form, he says that when we change into alter ego form, we can shuffle a Spider-Man card from his discard pile into his deck. It's not generally my favorite mechanic, but can come in handy reusing some of your best cards. In hero form, he has Venom Blast. It's a special, so deal 2 damage to an enemy and stun them. As a special, that means something we can't activate manually. We have to, some other card effect is going to have to trigger that for us. Same with Spider Camouflage special, give Spider-Man a tough status and confuse an enemy. Sandman on Stage 2 here says, when revealed, which is going to happen right away as we begin the game, resolve the Surging Sands ability on city streets, this environment card, so we'll do that in a moment. It starts in play based on the main scheme's instructions. And also, when he hits us, when he attacks, his attacks are indirect damage, which kind of sucks if you want to block with allies. And if our identity takes any damage, we have to Surging Sands again. So let's take a look at Surging Sands. The special there is that when it is triggered, we got to place a sand there and then discards the cards from the top of the encounter deck equal to the amount of sand. And again, that is happening immediately because we're starting on Stage 2. So we have to add a counter, and now there are 5, and I have to discard 5 cards off the top of the deck. I actually had 2 of the 3 expert cards, which again, I don't usually play with these. You can see it says expert in the bottom right corner, so we're not going to have to deal with the master plan or under fire, at least for a while. Also, as a hero action, we can exhaust one of our characters to basically attack the sand, remove sand equal to the character's attack, but only once per phase. So either Spider-Man can do it, or one of his allies can do it, or nobody. And then our main team is pops at 9 per player, which is only 9. Which is pretty low. If this hits 9, we lose the game. It starts with 2 per player, so that's just 2. And after an acceleration token is placed here, which would be one of these guys, we take 3 indirect damage. That will happen if the main deck runs out. So the more sand is here, the more times that sand gets triggered, the more cards come off the deck, which means it has to be reshuffled, which means this gets acceleration tokens, which means damage is dealt again. So I've got my opening hand of 6 cards. It's my hand size in alter ego form. And let's see, I haven't done a mulligan yet. And this deck, this Spider-Man deck, I found on Marvel CDB. So you can check the link in the description if you want to see the deck list created by somebody. Sorry, don't know anybody's names. All right, so I mulliganed away Meditation and Rapid Response. Honestly, this deck looks a little bit tricky. Not like too hard, but I haven't played with it before. And it does have some interesting stuff going on. So I'm probably not going to be executing great. But I'm going to play Web Shooter. Costs 1, so I'm going to pay with another Rapid Response. And it's going to have 3 counters, and it can be exhausted for a wild resource as long as those 3 uses last. And I really want to play this Spider-Man Hobie Brown, but it's just not working out. I even have power in all of us, but I think I need to play Kalu. So I'm going to spend those 2 cards as 2 resources, which doesn't feel great. And he's going to let me search the top 5 cards of my deck for an event to add to my hand. I think I'm going to grab Web Shot. All right, so I shuffled my deck. We get Kalu into play, and now I have this Web Shot, but I already had a Web Shot, so I'm going to spend 1 and pay a Web to play that. It's going to deal 4 damage. I paid a energy because the Web Shooter's wild. So I get to trigger Spider-Man's Venom Blast. So I do need to be in hero form for that. So let's go ahead and switch once per turn. We can change our identity between hero and alter ego forms. And again, Venom Blast deals 2 damage and stun. So Sandman's going to take 4 damage from the web shot and 2 damage from the venom blast, putting him from 18 down to 12. And then he is stunned. So even though we're playing on expert, we're not playing on one of the more difficult enemies that can't be stunned or make you stun them twice. So at least that bit's nice. I think I do want to get the city streets under control. So I'm going to use this hero action to exhaust Spider-Man and remove 2 sand from there. And then with Kalu, I think let's thwart. He takes 1 consequential damage, and I'm going to remove 1 from the main scheme because again 9 is pretty low. So this event is done. Go be discarded. We're going to end the hero phase by readying and drawing up to my hero form hand size, which is only 5 cards. And then Sandman gets his turn. This gets 1 per player at the start of the villain phase. Then Sandman attacks us because we're in hero form, but he can't attack because he's stunned. So he drops that stun status, and then we draw 1 encounter card, which is a sand clone. Has 1 scheme, 3 health, and attack equal to the number of sand here. So it's got 3 attack. But when it's defeated, we have to resolve the surging sand. So if we get that sand down really low, hopefully that won't be too bad. And then it's back to the hero phase. Now I wish I didn't take that web shot because I'd love to be able to play another one. All right, I think I'm going to do that thing again with Spider-Man to bring the surging sand down to 1, which means the sand clone's attack is down to 1, but that's not going to be super relevant. I'm going to swing in. I have to pay 2. I'm going to pay Avengers Mansion and Double Life. Avengers Mansion has a mental resource in the bottom left corner, the blue, which means we get to trigger the bonus. We're removing 4 threat from a scheme. There's only 2 there, so it's a little bit wasted. But we deal 4, putting Sandman down to 8, and he gets confused, and Spider-Man gets tough, which means when he would take damage, we prevent all of that damage as well as that tough status card. I could play Jefferson Davis by paying this other last card along with the web shooter, but I think I'm actually going to play the Arachnobatics, spending Jefferson Davis and saving my web shooter counters. So this is going to do 2 damage to Sandman. If he's stunned, it deals 3 more, and if he's confused, it does 3 more. So he's not stunned, but he's confused, so we're hitting for 5, putting Sandman down to 3. I'm not sure what I want to do with Kalu. He can attack for 1 or thwart for 1, but the consequential damage will defeat him. I could save him to block, but again, Sandman's attacks are indirect damage, so he wouldn't even be able to block a whole attack. I think the best use for him is thwarting, but there's currently no threat, so I'm just going to leave him here and hope I don't get punished for that. I'm going to change into alter ego form because Sandman is confused, so he won't be able to scheme anyway. I'm going to trigger this ability. When we change to alter ego form, I get to shuffle a Spider-Man card from the discard pile into the deck, and we're going to get one of those web shots shuffled back in. And we're going to end the hero phase. I didn't even use 2 of my cards, but oh well. So we get a hand size of 6 this time in alter ego form. The main scheme, Hapless Pedestrians, gets 1. Sandman will scheme against us, except that he's confused. Sandclone gets to scheme against us, so that's 1 more threat. And we get an encounter card, Vulture, coming out. Quick Strike and Villainous. Fortunately, Quick Strike won't affect us since we are in alter ego form, otherwise he'd hit us right away. Villainous means when he does activate, he gets a boost. 6 health is quite a bit. And after he activates, we have to discard a card at random. So that's a villain I would like to get rid of. Or a minion, I mean. All right, so let's start out by playing Nick Fury. Classic core set card. I'm paying with these 4 cards. We got Gamora. Power and All of Us actually pays for 2 since this is a gray basic card. And then one of our web shots, awkwardly enough. I get to choose one of those modes, and I'm going to choose to draw 3 more cards. Now we have Nick Fury in play. I drew Genius and Energy. I'm going to have Nick Fury attack Vulture. Nick Fury will take 1 consequential damage and deal 2 damage to Vulture. Then I'm going to change into Spider-Man form. We're still tough and play the other web shot we had in hand, paying with energy. So we get the energy bonus. We're going to deal 4 to Vulture to defeat him, and we get to resolve Venom Blast. Doesn't say it has to be against the same enemy. So we're going to hit Sandman down to 1 and stun him. And then I think I would rather thwart with Kalu. Still take 1 off the Hapless Pedestrians. I'm just very afraid of that 9. Kalu will be defeated. Sandclone's attack is still only 1. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but this only happens when its special is triggered. This has a response only when it gets an acceleration counter. And this Sandblast ability, or when revealed, triggers Surging Sands. We already did that. And when the interrupt, when he hits you for damage, it triggers Surging Sands. So unless a Treachery or something triggers Surging Sands, we're safe having it down at 1. Then I'm going to play Ghost Spider. Gwen Stacy. We do have a Web Warrior. Spider-Man is a Web Warrior. When she leaves play, we get to search our deck for an identity-specific card, which sounds great. I'm paying with Genki Lee and a Genius, providing 2 of the 3 resources. Still saving that Web Shooter. We're also still tough. So if I were to go into the villain phase now, Sandman wouldn't be able to attack us, but the Sand Clone would attack us for 1. I'm going to go ahead and peek at Sandman phase 3. Place a sand counter on city streets and resolve Surging Sands. And Surging Sands gives it another one, so that would put it up to 3. So if we do deal Sandman's last damage, this is going to go up to 3. All right, I think this makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and attack with Ghost Spider. She attacks for 2, takes 1 consequential damage. I'm going to waste 1 of that damage and put Sandman down to 0. I could have done that with Kalu, but I'm okay with what I did here. So Sandman stage 2 is defeated. We go to stage 3. He says that when he's revealed, which is now, place a sand counter on city streets and resolve Surging Sand. Surging Sand says place a sand counter here, so that goes up to 3, and then discard 3 cards because that's how much sand is there. So we lose Hobgoblin, Dirt Trap, and a Sand Clone. Oh, and now his ability doesn't have indirect damage anymore. He now just has Overkill. Okay. Good to know. The sand will flow over any allies who attempt to block it. And now I'm going to use the hero action here, exhaust Spider-Man to remove 2, putting it back down to 1, so Sand Clone is shrunken, and then we will pass. Nick Fury leaves play at the end of the round, but he's still around for the villain phase. Go ahead and draw 5 more cards. This gets 1 more. Sandman would attack, but he's stunned. Sand Clone gets to attack, but only for 1, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to block with Nick Fury because, again, he goes away at the end of the round. So that may as well be now. Actually, technically, he's not gone. That was only 1 damage. It's a possibility I should have saved him to block Sandman, like if we had an attack treachery. But I guess the overkill makes it irrelevant, and we're already tough. So let's see what Sandman's encounter card is. And it is Assault, so villain attacks you. We'll just let him go ahead and do that. He's going to get a 3 damage plus a boost. The boost is 0 from this advance. Nice to see that hit the discard pile. So 3 damage to Spider-Man. But again, Spider-Man is tough, so he just loses the tough status. We don't take any damage, which means we don't have to surge the sands. At the end of the round, Nick Fury leaves play, even though he only had 2 damage on him. Oh, and I should have set Sandman phase 3's health. He's at 19. We do that 19 damage, we win. Man, that 3 health in the Sand Clone is just so awkward. All my attacks are like for 2 or 4. All right, now I'm going to do what I do believe is one of the main shticks of the deck, and that is I'm going to play Make the Call. It costs 0, but I'm going to pay 3 for it using this Strength. And Maria Hill, pay the printed cost of an ally in any discard pile and put it into play under your control. And the ally we're getting is someone I spent earlier as a resource. That is Gamora. Play only if your identity is the Guardian trait, which we do not have. However, Make the Call just lets us put her into play. We're not actually playing her per se. So it's a little loophole that the builder of this deck decided to exploit. And she's great because after she attacks or thwarts, we discard cards from the top of our deck until we hit an event and add that to our hand. So we're going to be able to add a couple of cards to our hand over the course of this turn and next turn. Unfortunately, on the 3rd time she does that, she will be out of play before that ability would occur. Unless we can heal her, but I don't think this deck does that. So I think I will do that now. Let's attack with her. She takes 1 consequential damage. We're going to attack Sandman, putting him down to 17, and discard cards until we hit an event. We lose the Web of Life and Destiny, but we get another Make the Call. And the Make the Call is tempting, and so is Swing In, but I think I'm instead going to spend them both along with a Web Shooter to generate a Strength resource in order to play Spider-Man, Peter Parker, who requires 1 of each resource. After he attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior and ready them. So I think I'm going to thwart with Spider-Man, bring this down to 0, and I'm thinking I actually want to go to Alter Ego. First we'll attack with Spider-Man though. Peter Parker, put Sandman down to 15, which means we can ready another Web Warrior, which will be this Spider-Man, and he can attack, putting Sandman down to 13, and Ghost Spider can attack, taking a 2nd consequential damage, putting Sandman down to 11. The only other question would be, did I want to waste an attack on the city's streets to bring it to 0? But I don't think so. So I'm going to switch to Alter Ego. We immediately shuffle a card back into our deck. And again, I think that will be a web shot. Interesting. I don't think I've ever had 3 basic allies in play before. They all have different requirements. She requires a web warrior. She requires a guardian. He requires 1 of each resource. Gonna end the hero phase, draw 6 cards. We've got 6 cards left in our deck. I'm feeling good about next round. So 1 threat gets added here. Sandman will attack us. Or no, he's scheming. We're actually letting him activate this round. He's not stunned or confused, so he's going to scheme for 1 plus a boost of 1. One little triangle icon there, meaning 2 gets added here. Sandclone also gets to scheme for 1, so that's a total of 3, bringing Atlas Pedestrians up to 4 out of the lethal 9. And then hopefully this isn't another advance or something. Shadows of the Past, keeping it interesting down to the end. I think when you're set up to win, which I don't know that I am, but I'm, again, feel pretty good about it, that's the perfect time to take a gander at your hero's personal encounter set. So we get to reveal our set-aside nemesis, which is the Prowler. I love purple and green together. Always been a huge fan of that. So I'm a fan of the Prowler. He is stalwart, so I think that means he can't be stunned or confused, or it takes 2 of them to stun or confuse them. I always get those mixed up, but I don't think I'm stunning or confusing him anyway. 5 health. When revealed, if you are an alter ego, he becomes tough. Now we don't have to defeat them, but again, we are playing the solo league, nominally at least. So if I were really reporting my scores, I'd probably care a lot about the fact that there are going to be 5 more hit points in play at the end of this scenario, because that would affect my score. So that's something to keep in mind. We also get our set-aside nemesis side scheme, which is tracking prey. Prowler's on the hunt and won't stop until he corners his prey. When revealed, if you're an alter ego, place an acceleration token here. So this is going to add 2 more threat, this symbol plus the acceleration token, to the main scheme, as long as this is out. Fortunately, that acceleration token didn't get added to Hapless Pedestrians, the main scheme. Oh, and it has 4 threat, which is another way our score can get affected, because now we've got 4 more threat among enemy schemes. Again, base rules of Marvel Champions: we beat Sandman, we win. Solo League rules, all this stuff will affect our score negatively. So that was Shadows of the Past. Also these 3 encounter cards from the Prowler set get shuffled into the encounter deck. I don't know that we're going to be able to clean that up completely, but let's start out with Ghost Spider. And I think I will use her to knock Tough off. That will deal her 3rd consequential damage out of her 3 hit points, but her interrupt says that when she leaves play, we can search our deck for an identity-specific event. And I hope out of these last 6 cards we have an identity-specific event. We have 1, a double life. At the very least, that will be a resource. And let's take a look at what else I have, because I also have Gamora. After she attacks or thwarts, discard cards from the top of her deck until we discard an event. I guess it doesn't matter if I run my deck out. It'll give me an extra encounter card, but that doesn't affect our score or impact us unless we actually go into the villain phase. So we do have 2 more events in the deck. Good to know. So Ghost Spider's defeated. Then I'm going to play another Make the Call, and I'm going to spend, I guess, these 4 cards: Double Life, Helicarrier, Meditation, and Web Shooter. That's 4, which means we can get a 4-cost ally, and of course that's going to be Nick Fury, who's going to let us draw 3 cards. So let's put a pin in that, because I think I want to attack with Gamora first. I think that's also going to be Prowler, and her response is we get to discard until we hit an event. Got an upgrade, an ally, and Across the Spider-Verse. Exhaust a Web Warrior card to search your discard pile for a Web Warrior ally and put it into play. And you can spend 3 resources to repeat the ability. I do have Web Warrior Hobie Brown and Gwen, who we just saw leave play, but I don't have any open ally slots. I can only have 3 allies, and I currently have 3. So now let's go ahead and resolve Nick Fury's, draw 3 cards. We got 2 cards left: Meditation and Defense Mechanism. Now our deck is empty, so we have to take an encounter card. This will be an extra encounter card that we get during the villain phase, but hopefully we don't get that far. Reshuffle my deck before I draw the 3rd card, which is a Double Life. A lot of these cards aren't going to help us very much, but I think I actually will play Defense Mechanism. So say 1-cost upgrade, so I'm going to pay that Double Life. After we use the basic power, discard this card and resolve Spider Camouflage. We get to put that into play. I'm going to change to hero form And I'm going to play Web Shot on Prowler, paying with Meditation and Across the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse generates a wild resource, so that will meet the condition of an energy. So we're going to do 4 damage to Prowler. And because we paid with energy, we also get to Venom Blast. The Venom Blast will be against Sandman, putting him down to 9 and stunning him. Now, the last card I have in my hand is Arachnabatic. So it deals 2. If he's stunned and or confused, deals 3 damage for each of those. So that can do up to 8 damage, and Sandman is at 9. So let's attack with Spider-Man for 2, putting Sandman down to 7. That means we used a basic power, so defense mechanism triggers. We can discard this to resolve Spider Camouflage, which means Spider-Man is tough and Sandman is confused. So now Arachnobatics will do 8. So I think I was pre-calculating that in my head. Sorry if I said it would do 8. It wouldn't have done 8 a second ago, but now it would do 8. We have the web shooter to pay for that. So I win. The question is, how much can I clean up first? So let's thwart with Spider-Man, Peter Parker, removing 2 from, I guess, this. His response lets us ready Spider-Man at Miles Morales. Nick Fury can also thwart for 2, bringing tracking prey down to 0. So at least we cleared out this side scheme and the villain from, or the villainous minion from Shadows of the Past. Looks like we're still going to have the Sand Clone and Hapless Pedestrians, because Spider-Man Miles Morales can only do 2 more. Well, Hapless Pedestrians is never going anywhere, but we can bring it down to 2, I suppose, by thwarting there. And then, of course, play the Arachnobatics, spending the last counter from our web shooter, which is discarded, along with Arachnobatics to deal 8 damage to Sandman because he's stunned and confused. 1 overkill damage, except we don't actually have overkill, and he's the main villain anyway, so he's down to 0. And for scoring, we would have 2 threat among schemes and 3 HP among enemies. And among allies, we're actually doing really well. We have Spider-Man. Miles never took any damage. We got the full 9, 2 more on Nick Fury, 1 more on Gamora, and 1 more on Spider-Man. It's 13 health. That sounds pretty good. So hopefully I didn't miss anything. I feel like I got it mostly right. We kept the city streets sand under control. We didn't worry about the Sand Clone because his odd HP was just too awkward to deal with. We kept Hapless Pedestrians threat down, the main scheme. But yeah, just the stunned and confused chain from Miles Morales was strong enough. I think that was the main thing. Playing those Venom Blasts and the Spider Camouflage did the job. So thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.